Well, we kind of combined our powers and set up with one idea because we both had quite similar kind of ideas. And we started from a point of view of quite often when you go to conferences, it's a very one-dimensional thing where you have a sort of expert at the front who's who's imparting their knowledge on you in a very one-dimensional way, and most of the time you just sat there. There's very little interaction, very little engagement. So that was our sort of starting point for the whole thing. So we were thinking about engagement and how we could get the audience to contribute a little bit more and just feel a bit more involved. So we've come up with a bit like you guys actually. We've got a buzzer. And from the buzzer, we've got some MI, some information here which we can get. Yeah. So the idea is that everyone in the audience would have some kind of buzzer, so they could contribute, they could rate, they could they could say if they find something to be a little bit bullshit, and those kind of things really. And what we thought would be really good, because quite often when you go to conferences, they're talking about some kind of report that was written that year. 70% of people felt that e-learning wasn't being used as well as it could be. Blah 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 blah. But we thought actually from the delegates in the room, the whole conference, people could go away with a report which they can take back to their workplace or wherever it is. And they've actually got some stats and, based upon kind of live information, So they were directly feeding into the sort of report which they would be taking away with them. So that's kind of where we were coming from, really.
We also talked about if you're going to send a delegate to a conference, there may be a certain question that you want to have answered. You might send that in ahead of time, so that gets presented. It may be that there's some sort of information treasure hunt that happens around the conference, and so you use this to go around and acknowledge whether you've got that information. So there's an incentive, the person who gets the most right answers or identifies the right whatever it is gets a couple of nights at the Hilton or something like that to motivate people to engage. So not only are your questions being answered, but you're also able to then rate what the conference was about, what was good, what wasn't good, what is trending at the moment, what are people using at the moment. And so rather than have that sort of aftermath of a conference where, you get home and you're really excited and you're saying, well, I met these people and these people are saying this, that and the other. It's like, where's the tangible results? You've got these stats that can actually be auctioned by your organisation and say, okay, well, the reason we've chosen this learning software is because out of the 200 delegates internationally, 90% of them have tried this, they said it's rubbish, and actually this is the better product to use.
The data is the collective view, isn't it? It's not just what's on your handset. Yeah. So everyone could get everything.
I mean, at the end of the conference, it's all been feeding into this report. Literally, at the end of the conference, it gets emailed out. It could be back at work before you are.
Rather than the kind of, you go back to the workplace and, if someone asks you, well, what were the kind of main themes from the conference? And instead of saying, well, my general feeling is, you'd actually have, some information to say, well, actually, 70% of the people in the room felt this, blah, blah, blah. And, going back to that thing about the old school style of, a lecture-based, presentation or whatever, if you just listen to someone for an hour, that's just one person talking, whereas, how great would it be with, if all those voices aren't being heard, all those other people who probably have got lots of valuable contributions to give, if just one person's talking, then it's kind of, you're missing a lot. But with these kind of buzzers and those kind of things, you can sort of, you can take away kind of everyone's views on things.
So kind of like big data for the conference experience.
Yes.